If you've ever felt that you're doing everything right, being attentive, respectful, consistent, and yet desire still doesn't appear, I want you to listen to this calmly. What I'm about to say may not be comfortable, but it is deeply liberating once it's understood. And by the end of this video, many dynamics that once felt confusing will start to make sense, because they actually follow very clear psychological patterns. Desire cannot be negotiated, it cannot be begged for, and it cannot be forced. When a man tries to make a woman desire him, he usually fails because he's operating from the wrong logic. Female desire does not respond to clever techniques, perfect lines, or theatrical strategies. It responds to internal perceptions, how safe, grounded, and emotionally coherent a man feels in her presence. After years of listening to women speak honestly, one pattern repeats itself. Interest can change, yes, but it never changes under pressure. It changes when something in the man activates a different internal feeling than before. And that feeling doesn't come from trying to be liked. It comes from no longer needing to be liked. Many men confuse interest with validation. They assume that if a woman isn't interested, it means they haven't proven their value enough, shown enough effort, or demonstrated how good they are. In reality, it's often the opposite. Excessive early effort communicates internal anxiety, and anxiety is not experienced as attraction, it's experienced as emotional weight. A woman doesn't evaluate only what you say or do. She evaluates how you feel about yourself while you're saying or doing it. Your internal state leaks into your tone, your silences, your reactions, and your decisions. And that internal state has the strongest impact of all. When a woman isn't interested, she's often not rejecting the man himself, but the energy he carries. The feeling that she may have to regulate someone else's emotions, become the center of expectations, or carry emotional responsibility. Desire needs space to breathe. Without space, it suffocates. Here's a truth few men hear without resistance. You are not attractive because you convince. You are attractive because you are whole. Attraction arises when your life, your values, and your direction don't depend on anyone's response. That isn't coldness, it's stability. And emotional stability is deeply magnetic. This doesn't mean ignoring women, manipulating, or playing psychological games. It means something far more mature and more difficult. Building a solid relationship with yourself, where your self-worth doesn't rise or fall based on female attention. When a woman senses this, something shifts in how she perceives you. Even if there was no initial interest, authentic desire doesn't come from the right trick. It comes from sustained emotional coherence. There's a critical difference that's rarely examined honestly. The difference between being nice and being secure. Many women say they value kindness, respect, and attentiveness, and they do. But desire doesn't arise from kindness alone. It arises when kindness is supported by a firm identity, not by a need for approval. When a man is kind because he fears losing a woman, that kindness feels fragile. Every gesture carries a silent question. Is this enough now? Even when nothing is said, it's felt. The human mind is extremely sensitive to hidden intentions. The body registers them before words do. Emotional security is not arrogance or indifference. It's the ability to remain centered even without guarantees. A secure man adjusts, listens, and learns. But he doesn't betray himself to be liked. That coherence creates something very specific in a woman. Emotional predictability. And paradoxically, that predictability creates both calm and curiosity. Many women lose interest when they feel they're becoming the emotional axis of a man, not because they don't want connection, but because they anticipate future emotional burden. Desire fades when obligation appears. No one desires what they feel they'll have to emotionally sustain. This is where limits become essential. Not cold barriers, but clear expressions of identity. A man without clear boundaries may seem available, but availability without structure feels vague. And what feels vague rarely creates desire. From a psychological perspective, boundaries communicate self-knowledge. Knowing what you accept, what drains you, and what aligns with you signals internal stability. This isn't control, it's coherence. It's being able to say yes and no without guilt or aggression. Desire needs healthy psychological tension, Not rigidity, but not self-dissolution either. Attraction lives in balance, closeness, and autonomy. When a man doesn't respond from urgency, doesn't abandon his life to maintain interaction, and doesn't orbit uncertainty, he doesn't create distance. He creates respect. And respect is an invisible foundation of desire. Without it, any initial interest evaporates. Another overlooked factor is emotional regulation during frustration. Not when things are going well, but when there's silence, ambiguity, or rejection. That's where your internal world is revealed. People aren't drawn to perfection. They're drawn to emotional regulation. A man who can feel interest without losing stability, disappointment without bitterness, and hope without attachment communicates rare maturity. And that maturity is felt without explanation. True strength isn't convincing. It's accepting without collapsing. A man who can hear no and remain himself without hardening or disappearing becomes unexpectedly attractive because his value doesn't depend on outcome. Desire doesn't grow around what you offer. It grows around who you are when you're not trying to offer anything. Many connections fail because a man presents himself as a product, not a presence. Desire is experiential, not evaluative. It comes from how it feels to be with you. This isn't a strategy. If it becomes a technique, it loses its power. People sense what's genuine and what's instrumental. When a woman feels that with you, she doesn't have to manage expectations or perform emotionally, her system relaxes. And in that relaxed space, desire can emerge naturally. The final truth is simple but profound. This isn't about making a woman desire you. It's about becoming a man with whom desire can arise effortlessly. When you chase desire, you live reactively. When you live with purpose, boundaries, and emotional stability, desire becomes a possible consequence. Not a guarantee, but something real. Healthy desire is born from choice, not need. You're not here to convince anyone of your worth. You're here to live it. Those who resonate will come closer. Those who don't were never meant to. And the desire that matters most is not the one you provoke in others, but the one you feel for your own life. When a man walks with coherence, presence, and calm, he doesn't need to promise anything. His way of being speaks for him, and that's where desire appears, if it's meant to appear.